You
Yo.
still got your army shirt on.
I didn't do it on purpose.
What the fuck?
I was
I
telling
didn't
him
do it
that
on
earlier.
purpose. Hey, I didn't do this on purpose. I had
You
this
just
on
got
earlier.
out of PT or what? What you doing?
This ain't for y'all.
He was like, I heard this dude was a Marine. Someone wearing my army shirt today.
Nah, it ain't for y'all.
No, bro. What is this? It's a trap.
I'm an assistant coach on my son's team. I put it on earlier.
Are you single?
I put my hoodie on top of it. I just needed
You
something
single,
to wear.
huh? You single, huh? You doing that for all them baby mamas?
No.
Look at me. Look at
He
me.
makes
I'm
his
a
son
veteran.
team calm, Sergeant.
I'm not that. No.
So today we got Elliott McKenzie. He's a singer, songwriter, and a veteran. And we're just gonna go ahead and just start off the interview with some questions, man. If you don't mind sharing your experience with us about the military, about your time in the Marine Corps.
Of course. What you guys got? Ask me anything you need.
Hey, how long did you? When did you serve and how long?
So the truth is, a lot of people don't know this. A lot of people think I just served in the Marine Corps. I actually made fun of you earlier for your shirt, but I have no grounds because I actually was in the Army too.
Oh,
So technically speaking, on paper, I joined the Marine Corps in 2003, right after I graduated high school. Served until 2007, so I did 4 years in the Marine Corps, and then I was in the Marine Corps IRR for 1 year, and then I joined the Army Reserves in 2008. And then I went from 2008 to 2011 in the Army Reserves. So full 8 years on paper. I personally don't really count that 1 year in the IRR, even though the DOD for some reason counts it, because I guess they count the IRR. So technically 8 years in the military total, 4 or 5 in the Marine Corps, 3 in the Army Reserves. Yeah.
Okay.
But active, like in uniform, was 4 in the Marine Corps, 3 in the Army Reserves. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what'd you like about your time in service?
My favorite part, honestly, was traveling. A lot of it's interesting because like now as a civilian, I've always heard a lot of people, you get day jobs or you make friends or you just overhear conversations. And I overhear people talking about like traveling to this country, traveling to that country, how expensive it is, all the logistics that they got to handle, bringing their kids. And it's just, they thought it was going to be fun, but it's really not. The vacation turned into a nightmare. And I was thinking back to when like I went to like Okinawa, Japan, for example, when I was in the Marine Corps. That was technically a deployment, but it felt more like a vacation because all we really did was we went out to Okinawa for 6 months, hopped on and off a Navy boat, and then went and trained in the jungles in Japan. And other than that, we were just kind of hanging out. Like we were going out to the clubs, the bars, getting massages and chilling on the side on the side of the beach. And it was like a vacation mixed with a little bit of work. And so I thought about the fact that I got to do all that and get paid for it. Like we got to travel the world, see different parts of the world. We stopped in Ireland on a layover. And so I got to hang out in Ireland for a little bit. We went to, even though I went to Iraq was a war deployment. We were at war, but it was still, I got to see a different part of the world. I got to see other cultures. I got to learn about different types of people on the other side of the world that I didn't know about before. So I really loved traveling and not having to pay for it. And kind of finding the good within the bad, because like I said, even though like I went to Iraq and it was a war deployment, it was combat, I was still able to see the good parts of it and see the fact that like I got out of my little bubble here in California. I got to travel on an airplane across the world without needing a passport. And I got to see other people, experience other languages, experience how other people do things in their part of the world versus how we do things here in the US. And, I did that multiple times in multiple different countries. When I was with the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit in Okinawa, Japan, we not only were in Japan, but we also went to the Philippines and Indonesia and other parts of that area. And so I got to see tons of countries, while being paid to do it, and so it was, that was probably my favorite part of being in the military. Absolutely. Was the travel.
Right. Yeah, no, I can relate to that. Because that's how it was when I was in Korea. Yeah. I was in Korea from September 2019 to September 2020. And when I tell you, like, it was like the Army, like, sent me on a vacation for a whole year.
Yeah.
And then
Exactly.
COVID happened, and then they locked everybody down, so we couldn't like leave post. But then we could do anything we wanted. Like we were having barracks parties, we were having barbecue, we're playing softball, like kickball, like we're doing all this stuff. I remember the we didn't have a class 6, so the PX just sold all the liquor.
Right.
And like there was a line, like almost every day there was a line outside the PX. And we were just getting drunk every day. We didn't even go to work. We didn't go to work.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to do, right?
Yeah, like we couldn't do nothing. They were doing minimum manning, and like I was a part of that crew. So like 90% of the base wasn't. So it was like, yeah, we were just partying all day.
Yeah.
I was just partying all day. Like, and I'm like, I'm getting paid for this. And then like June, and then I told some of my friends, I said one day we were drinking, and I was like, yo, like people back in the States right now, people are losing their jobs. They're not getting paid. They're figuring out what they're gonna do. And we're sitting here on the floor in our barracks room in South Korea, getting drunk as hell right now, getting paid to do it, and not go. And we ain't been working like a month. Like, we haven't missed a paycheck. So like, I get what you're saying. Like, and I remember like June of 2020, I was in Busan,
right,
which I call it the Miami of South Korea. It was beautiful.
Okay.
And I'm just sitting on the beach, and I'm like, bro, like, COVID what? Like, where's COVID? Like, you know what I mean? Korea took care of it a lot better than like the States did.
Right.
So about time like May rolled around, June, like the army still was like kind of funny with letting people like go out. I mean, they let us go out, but like actually us going back to work.
Yeah.
But like they let us do whatever, and I'm like, damn, dude, like I'm on the beach. I remember I'm sitting on the beach with a bottle. I had a bottle, some type of liquor, some vodka.
Right.
With my friends, and I'm like, damn, like I'm taking pictures, you know how people that take these little corny ass pictures, with the bottle in the water, the waves crashing. Like, I'm like, damn, like I'm just like, damn, like I'm really doing this right now. Like it's a vacation, dude. It was like a vacation, so I get it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nothing better than that, right? Nothing better than being able to see the world without having to pay for it and put a little work in, and you good. You know what I mean? And you serving the country, so you're doing something, that you can be proud of. So, absolutely, yeah.
All right, yeah, man. Like I totally get it. So, one thing I have to ask you this, because this is one thing that I've gone through and I'm still struggling with.
Yeah,
my mental health.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like my sleep. Like I remember I got in September of 2015. Okay. And I know they did this probably times 1,000 when you went to boot camp. But when I was in basic, like I never got any sleep. They're constantly waking people up. Then you got to do for you guys. It was fire. What was it? It was fire guard for us. What they call for you guys?
Fire watch
for the Marine Corps. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, like on top of that, you're already getting your sleep interrupted, and then somebody does some dumb shit, or somebody leaves their weapon unsecured, and now everybody's being told to get the fuck outside in the cold in like October in Missouri. And I'm like, I tell people I'm not exaggerating. I have not gotten a full 8 hours of sleep unless I've been sleep deprived for like a whole day and my body's just gonna shut down, or if I drank too much, and I'm just blacked out for like 12 hours. Outside of that, I haven't gotten a regular 8 hours sleep in like 8-9 years. And it's messed with my mental. I mean, I've gone through a lot of stuff. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like, I know that's kind of personal, so you don't have to, but
no, you good.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I'm known for now. So the first thing I want to say is for anybody who's watching this, who's not in the military, not familiar, maybe doesn't have PTSD, things like that, keep in mind that every brain is different and every brain is going to handle trauma differently. And there are also a lot of people who were in the military who didn't experience anything negative at all. People who maybe, like, for example, joined the Air Force or the Navy or the Coast Guard or something simple, like not frontline Marine Corps Army. And they sat behind a desk the whole time they were in the military, never deployed. And for them, it was like an admin assistant job at Target. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so they did it. They got out. They had nothing bad happen while they were in the military. So they've got no PTSD, because a lot of the thing that I've noticed, one thing that I've noticed is a lot of veterans, the whole veteran community in general, specifically a lot of combat veterans, get a lot of bad reputations. And civilians specifically will hear that you're a combat vet or that you're a veteran in general. And then they'll just assume, oh, you're fucked up in the head, huh? You've seen a bunch of bad shit. You got PTSD. You're that crazy person, like everybody says, right? So first of all, let me just say, don't assume that. Talk to the veteran that you're talking to, that you're getting to know, and hear their specific story, because they might not be that veteran you think they are. Second, but yeah, for those veterans like myself and like you, Sean, who might have experienced combat or might have experienced trauma while they were in the military, MST, military sexual trauma for some of the women and the guys, because it happens to both of us.
Right.
And then the combat vets who might have come home with PTSD, depression, anxiety, hyper awareness, the whole laundry list of issues that so many of us deal with that come home from combat zones after seeing combat, and then we develop these issues. But yeah, PTSD, depression, anxiety, insomnia, hyper awareness, they're all my best friends now. I call them my homies and the homies in my head. And like you said, sleep, I sleep maybe 5 hours a night, if that. Insomnia is a regular thing for me every single night. Melatonin has become one of my good friends. I take multiple melatonin gummies every single night just to even fall asleep. I'm usually up until 2, 3, sometimes 4:30 in the morning, just because I have so much energy at night I can't sleep. So I'm just like cranking melatonin, just trying to get tired. And then even when I crank melatonin, I'll go to sleep at 4:30, and then I'll wake up at like 9. It's like 5 hours, and I'm like, dang, I couldn't sleep for 8 hours. Like, I thought I took enough melatonin to knock myself out for a week. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason. And then PTSD, I have that, depression, anxiety, hyper awareness, the whole gambit. I'm 100% disabled, mainly because of my mental illness. So yeah, I mean, everybody's scenario or everybody's circumstances are going to be different. So it's going to be a case-by-case basis. But with me specifically, mental illness has been a huge part of my life and a huge problem in my life since coming home from Iraq. Yeah.
Right. No, I hear that, man. Cause like, like me, like it was, I was explaining it to one of my friends the other day, and I don't know, Rod, if we talked about this, but I realized, during basic training, there was a lot of people who just couldn't do it. They just couldn't do it. They were like talking about wanting to kill themselves, or whatever. And I was just like, we didn't make fun of it. I didn't. Some people did, but I just was like, damn, like they couldn't handle this. Like at the time when you're going through the shit, you're like, oh, this ain't, it's hard, but it ain't the hardest thing in the world. But I thought about it, and I was like, it was like a couple weeks ago. I'm like, they must have realized they were broke or they were getting broke.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't realize it. We didn't realize it until years later that we got broke.
Right.
They realized it from like the first like week. Nah, I'm broke. They're breaking me. I can't do this. You know what I mean? Does it make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, we thought we were good, but no, we were broke. We just didn't realize it. So like, man, I got depression.
Yeah.
Like I had a big breakdown. I have no problem talking about my issues. I ain't trying to make this Dr. Phil, but like I had like a big breakdown about 2 months ago, dude. I was in Atlantic City. I was drinking a little bit, and I just blew up at my boys, and I felt like shit for doing it, because I could have really hurt my boy, like, it was bad. But like, like I said, I told my friend, like, yo, I need to get some help. I told him, because he called me back. He's like, bro, you good? Like, what the hell's wrong? Like, are you good? Like, my boy's the type, like, he'll probably want to beat my ass, but like, he was like, bro, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? So I told him, like, bro, like all the shit that I've gone through, I went through, was in the army. So like, my marriage didn't last that long. So, like, like I dealt with all that dysfunction, and like, dude, like it's been a rough 8 years. I'm not going to lie. Like I didn't have it the worst that a lot of people have had it, but like my mental is been fucked since I joined the military. And I love the military. I'm not out here griping. Like I don't hate the military. But it did jack me up a little bit.
See, it's a love-hate relationship.
You said it's been 8 years since you got out or since you went in?
Well, I got in 2015.
Okay.
So I got out of active duty the beginning of the January 2022, and then I went right to the reserves.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I did a good what is that, 6-7 years?
Yeah. What about you, Rod? What's your experience been like?
My experience, man, it wasn't too great, to be honest. I mean, so I got in 2017. I was supposed to go to Baumholder, Germany initially after AIT.
Yeah.
But I had to get a compassionate reassignment because my wife is from Mexico, so she didn't have a green card at the time.
Yeah.
So I got a reassignment, and then they're like, hey, you're going to Fort Hood, Texas. And everybody was like, oh, shit, Fort Hood, Texas. all the instructors were telling me like you're gonna start doing cocaine and just fucking kill yourself eventually out there. I'm like, oh wow, cool. Thanks for telling me that.
That's where I went to US school.
Really? Yeah, man. That place is.
Yeah. I didn't experience all the bad stuff that people say. I was only there for a matter of like 2 months, and then I left. But I mean, like, I've heard so much bad stuff since I've been home.
Oh yeah, man. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I was there with Trump. He can vouch for some of the stuff that happened. I mean, maybe not everything, but I know he saw some stuff. It's just from like day one when I got there, man. It was just like a war with me and the first sergeant, man. I got there. And he was like, so you just got here. What's your name? I told him my name. I was like, so I need my stuff. I don't have any stuff. Or Sergeant, can I go and get some stuff for my family, like some paper plates or whatever, so we can kind of eat and get an airbed, go to the store. And he was like, oh, no, you don't need none of that shit. Your baby can sleep on a fucking floor, and you don't need any plates. Shit out of wrappers. I was like, okay, cool. So that was my first experience with the first sergeant in my unit. And his name was First Sergeant Refuge. I was like, all right, cool. I get it. And from that day on, it was all just chaos, man. I mean, it was constantly back and forth, me having to jump into the regulations and learn all this stuff so I can use it against them because they were trying to come at me about everything, about appointments, with family. I had my Sergeant Major come and tell me, he's like, hey, you keep giving us issues. I can control immigration giving your wife her papers. I was like, no, you can't.
Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, no.
Like, I can make sure they take that away. I was like, no, you can't. And he just he spat at my feet. Oh man, it was an experience, man. And then eventually, over time, I did get suicidal, obviously. I mean, I didn't deploy. I did do like some like NTC. I did go to the field a lot, but I didn't like deploy to a war zone or anything like that. Right. So I did have some other experiences, and over time, I was just like, it was affecting my marriage. It wasn't too good anymore. My life, my family my kids were just like, oh, you're never home. And eventually I was just like, man, maybe I'd be better off dead. So I started thinking like that for a little while. Yeah. And then eventually things got worse. I got to a point where I went to the mental ward. Yeah. I found myself sitting in a car with a gun at my head. And I was just like, I think I'm about to end it. And yeah, that's my experience, man. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst either. Like, I met a lot of good people. Crump is one of those people. Yeah. I had a lot of good times, but it's definitely got a lot of ups and downs. More downs for some than others, I think.
Right. Is that what ended up driving you to get out?
Yeah, to be honest, yeah, because like towards the end, like when I was at Fort Carson, I was just there and I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I was trying my hardest to do, certain things. Like I tried to go to special forces. Yeah. I was trying to do like Ranger school. My unit kept denying every packet I would drop. The commander was like, no, no, no. And then one day they were just like, oh, if you want us to approve these packets, you have to do whatever we tell you to do. And I was just like, well, what does that mean? They're like, you have to make us like you. And I was like, all right, cool. I guess I'm never going to go to school then. Right. So with them, it was kind of on that. Like, if they don't like me, they're not going to send me. So I was like, all right, cool. I don't really care anymore. And over time, like, things got worse again. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm done. I'm done. And then my first sergeant there pulled me in the office one day after I went to the mental health unit, because I had went to a counselor just to talk to somebody because my marriage was falling apart. I didn't know what I wanted anymore in my own life. I was confused. I was suicidal, homicidal. And they ended up admitting me. And after that, my first sergeant pulled me in. He was like, did you know you're a piece of shit? I was like, why? He's like, well, you went and sought help. He's like, I don't know why you went and sought help. He's like, you should have just sucked it up and kept it pushing. And I was like, well, that's the problem with some people. They suck it up. They keep pushing. They either going to do one of two things: A, commit suicide, or B, run into a building and start killing other people. Right. I was like, which one did you prefer? It's like, oh, well, I'm not a professional, so I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. And I was like, I'm done. I'm getting out. I'm done. I'm not staying anymore. And then I got out, and I've been out for almost a year. Actually, a year this month, man.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's been a hard transition. I ain't gonna lie. It's been a hard transition. I got out and I went to work for the prison for a little bit out here, and I quit that job. I couldn't hang anymore. My mental health was super bad at the time, and I quit that job. I just dipped out. I was like, I'm done. I'm not gonna work for a little bit.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, and I'm here now working on anxiety and stuff like that. And I got PTSD, but from other stuff going on that happened, you know. And yeah, that's my experience.
So, Elliott, I have a question for you.
What's up?
What what advice would you give somebody that's watching this, or anybody that you run in the street to say, "Hey, I'm thinking about joining the military," especially if it was the Marine Corps or Army? What advice would you give them? Like one most important piece of advice you would give somebody that you wish you would have got?
Learn the benefits while you're in and after you get out, and take advantage of as many of them as you can. Get the most out of the experience. And it would really depend on the person too, because one thing that I've realized since getting out of the military is that you have to think of the different military branches like different personalities, right? So the Marine Corps, we're known as like the aggressive alpha males, the dumbasses with, like the crayon eaters, so you got to think of them like the dumb jocks, right?
Right.
The Army is kind of like the next level down from that, a little bit more common sense, but still aggressive, still combat minded, but a little bit more common sense. And then I'm not going to go through all the branches, but you go all the way over to the Air Force, and then you get like what we call the nerds, right? So I would get to know the person on a personal level and kind of ask them some questions to kind of see what their personality was like, and then kind of give them what I feel like the best branch would be for them based off of what they tell me. And then I would tell them again, another thing I'd ask them is, what is your long-term goal? Are you just trying to go join the military to get a free college education? Are you planning on staying in the military for the rest of your life and retiring after 20 years? What is your goal? And then I would give them advice based off what they tell me. Lately, though, what I've been telling a lot of people is use the military as a free college education with the GI Bill. The post 9/11 GI Bill.
Yeah.
I have 4 college degrees now, and they're all paid for by the government by the post 9/11 GI Bill.
Wow.
I'm $0 in debt. I have a bachelor's degree, 2 associate's degrees, and a certificate, and they were all paid for by the government. And so lately, when people ask me about the military, especially because I've been doing a lot of public speaking, most lately at high schools and junior high. So I've been talking to people who could go into the military in their future. I'm like, yeah, join something simple like the Air Force or the Navy or something. Do a really simple job, admin work, do one contract, get out. And now guess what? Your college education is paid for. Now you don't have to worry about paying tuition, or your parents have to worry about paying tuition. In fact, you get paid while you're in college. I'll tell them when I got paid, I was getting paid over $3,000 a month while I was in college, getting paid to get a bachelor's degree. That's what I've been kind of promoting lately. So it would depend on the person and their specific reason for going in the military, and then I would tell them what branch and all that. But then I'd also tell them, hey, just use it as a way to get your college education for free.
Right? Yeah, like right. Now my recruiter, when I was getting in, he told me, all right, before I shipped out, he was like, use the Army how the Army's gonna use you. And I never forgot that. And I did take advantage of a lot of opportunities, especially when I was in Korea. That's when I started kind of doing the education thing.
Yeah.
When I got out, of active duty, I'm in the reserves. I use TA. I make sure to use TA.
Yeah.
Because I want to wait to use my GI Bill. You know what I mean? Right. So yeah, like I've never forgot that kind of imprint on my brain, and I made sure to use the Army how they're going to use me, because they're not going to hesitate to use me. And I tell people, like, yo, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to use that TA. Don't hesitate to use your GI Bill. Don't hesitate. You earned all that. You earned it all. So go out there and use it. I used to wear glasses. I got LASIK. Got that shit done for free 6 years ago. You know what I mean? So, like, I made sure to use everything. And that's advice that, like you said, pick the branch that, would be more suitable for your personality, but take advantage of all that they have to offer.
Yep.
Everything, like the job fair. Hey, go to the job fairs. I don't know how all the other branches do it, but I know the Army, they do great at having job fairs for people who are thinking about getting out of retirement.
Right.
Go to them. Even if you're not even thinking about getting out, go to them.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree with that for sure. Also, document everything.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure everything is documented. I know dudes that they didn't document like 70% of the stuff wrong with them. Now they're going to the VA The VA is like, well, we don't see it on file here, so it's not an existing condition. It's like, dude, the VA will get you if you don't get that documentation. The VA will not compensate you for anything.
Yeah, and then another thing too is what I did. I kind of was sneaky about it, but so in the Marine Corps, I don't know if they call it in the Army, but in the Marine Corps we have this thing called the SRB. I forget what it stands for, but it's basically like your packet of all your everything that you did, like your awards, everything you did while you were in service on active duty, any kind of like disciplinary action that happened to you, promotions, things like that, all that admin work, that paperwork, that documents, all that goes in there, and then also your medical records. So it's 2 different jackets. So what I did was literally like the week that I was getting out, I went to the hospital and I went to the hospital on base. And I got a copy of my medical record, and I just lied to him, and I told him, "Oh, I just want to look at something real quick." And then I went to S1, which is the admin shop, made a copy of it. Same thing with my SRB. Told them I went to S1, picked up my SRB, told them some bullshit lie just so I can get it. They gave it to me, and then I went and made a copy of it. And because I knew I'm going to need all this stuff, because a lot of people don't think about that. Like, it's really, really difficult to get a copy of like your files after you're already out. And so what I would tell a person too is like about a week or maybe even like 2 or 3 days before your last day of service in the military on active duty, do that. Like, get a copy of whatever your branch calls your SRB, your jacket, and then also your medical records. If you had anything happen while you were in service that you want to document for the VA once you're out, lie to them. Tell them whatever you got to do to just have them give you it. Take it to a copy machine, make a copy of everything in both of those jackets, and then make sure you take that with you home with you when you get out.
Yep.
Definitely.
Because same thing for me. That's how the VA ended up giving me my rating, because I made those copies. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't have had that proof.
Right.
Yeah, so you played it smart, man. You played it smart.
Yeah. It was like a week before I got out. I was like, I'm taking all this. I'm making copies of everything.
Now I know. Like I will say, like when I left Fort Bliss, I got out when I was in Fort Bliss.
Yeah,
and they're pretty good with giving me all my records, even my medical. They're pretty good, So maybe the Army's changed things up, or maybe they just always did things differently than the Marine Corps. But they definitely, I got all my paperwork. It's in a lockbox right in the room, right next to me. Like, all my disability paperwork, all my stuff that I did when I was in the Army, the awards. Now the DD-214, it has a lot of your stuff on there too, but the actual, awards that I got, like, I have all that paperwork. So definitely, like, hey, listen to that man. Like, please listen to that man if you're watching.
Yeah, there were things that I claimed, injuries that I claimed that were only documented while I was in active duty with the Marine Corps or on active duty. And if I didn't have those copies, I wouldn't have been able to prove it.
Right.
Yeah,
that's true. Now the Army. So they do have a better system now than they used to, where they give you your records. But now the new thing is, when you see your doctor, it's all in your head. It's anxiety, or it's just muscle pain, or just take an ibuprofen, you'll be fine.
Right.
Like they don't actually take it seriously with a lot of soldiers.
Yeah.
That you have these issues going on. They don't want to check it out. They just wanted you to wait until you get out, so you can get it done at that time. So it's like, okay, well, it's not on file. So how can you prove it with service connected? And that's where they get you. See, with me, and I tell this to everybody too, no matter what you look like, no matter if people tell you like, hey, you're being a bitch right now, you're going to sick call too much. Nah, the Army's not going to take care of you. They're going to let you get broken. They're going to let you go down. They don't care. They want to use you while they can. And as soon as they're done with you, you're going to be kicked to the curb.
Yep.
Document everything. Make sure you got it all down. Make sure you take care of yourself, no matter how you look to anybody. It doesn't matter. Just do what you got to do to make sure that you're set. That's what I got to say to anybody who's watching.
Because once you're out, none of that matters anymore. Like how you looked to those people that you no longer even talk to doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Those friends that you had 3 years ago in the military that you don't even associate with anymore, it doesn't matter. What matters now is what you can prove to the VA to get your rating.
Exactly. So Ellie, I got all these things going through my head because I want to pick your brain on this.
Yeah,
so how do you feel about, and this is the hot button topic in the country, how do you feel about the military back when Obama was president, back in 2016, when they were going to allow transgender people to join the military, but not only join, which I have no issue with, whatever. I know me and Ron are going to disagree on this, but my issue is they were going to let people join and then get reassignment surgery and then be non-deployable for 4 years. And then if they wanted to get out after that, they could. So I'm like, what's the purpose of them serving? In the Army, and I know the Marine Corps, they probably told you this, the purpose of us serving is to get deployed and to fight our nation's wars.
Right. Yeah.
So like, why, like, how do you feel about that? Like, you're just going to let somebody, well, not anymore, Trump repealed it, but back when Obama was president, you could just join, get the surgery, be non-deployable for 4 years and then get out. How did you feel about that?
Well, I got out in 2007, so it wasn't even an issue when I was in, or even after I got, like, shortly after I got out. But basically, like, my opinion on it is kind of similar to what you just said. Like, the whole purpose of the military is focused on winning combat, winning wars, you know? And so if there are people who are, for example, I don't know if there are people doing this, but I think it's safe to maybe assume there might be some after they found out like that the military might be paying for transgender surgery, reassignment surgery. They're just joining the military for that. They're like, oh, I can get it done for free if I join the Army or the Marines or the Navy or whatever. Okay, so then they join the military just to get that surgery done because they know the government will pay for it. So they're joining for the wrong reasons. They're not joining because they want to serve. They're not joining because they are super patriotic. They're serving because they want to get reassignment surgery. You know, I'm not against transgenders or the LGBTQ community at all, but I'm against it being used in that way, I guess you can say. I think what might have happened is the military got soft and the military wanted to appeal to and adapt to that community and try to make them feel comfortable because maybe, I don't know, I don't think any of us know, but maybe they were getting complaints. I don't know. Maybe higher ups were hearing complaints from members of that community who were already in the military who were complaining about a number of different things, being, you know, bullied or being, you know, disregarded or treated bad because they were gay or they were lesbian or they were transgender, whatever the case may be. So they thought, okay, how can we try to adapt and give this group of people, this community, an outlet or a way to make them feel included? And maybe paying for these kind of surgeries is one way to do that, you know? And so maybe that's why the military started paying for those surgeries. For example, like you said earlier, you got LASIK, right? That I can understand because LASIK is important. Your eyesight is important, especially if you're using a weapon and you're on the front lines. You got to be able to see down your sights to shoot that target or shoot that enemy. If you can't see, you know, that's directly correlated with your job or being in the military. That I can understand. But sexual reassignment surgery, it's not directly correlated to being in the military or any MOS that I can think of. And so I think the military handled the situation incorrectly. I think they maybe should have just opened up to that community in a different way. And so I think those surgeries being paid for by the government and all that stuff that happened was unnecessary. If they did it for that reason, like I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but if they did it for the reason of trying to appeal to the LGBTQ community, I don't think that was the way to do it.
Right. I agree with that. I just feel like the upper echelon of like military leadership has tipped on. I'm not trying to sound like the generic like conservative Republican or anything, but they're like too woke. It's like they want to appease people, but it's like making us soft, dude. Like we have look at Russia, look at China, our main adversaries, especially China. They're not doing this stuff. They're not having drag shows. It's crazy that General Milley and Defense Secretary Austin did not know that they were having drag shows on like military bases sponsored by the military. Like, come on, I don't believe that. Yeah, that was on. Yeah, that was on
for me.
Yeah, they were testifying in front of Congress, and this congressman brought it up, and they said, "Oh, we didn't know that." Like, come on, it's sponsored by the military.
Wow.
Okay. So, like, you know, my whole thing is like we're worrying about drag shows, worrying about appeasing people. You know, like we gotta fight wars.
Right.
You know, I'm not Johnny, you know, hard ass or nothing like that. I ain't the toughest guy in the world, but like, when I see, because I'm all big on geopolitics, but when I see countries like China and how they're trained their military, when I see Russia, even though they're getting their ass kicked by Ukraine, even Like I see what Russia's doing. You know, like we couldn't. I remember my drill sergeant told us we wouldn't if it was a solely ground war. We would fight against Russia or China. Just man on man, we would probably lose.
Right. Yeah.
Because first of all, this country just got too soft. You know, prosperity. What's that saying? Adversity makes men. Prosperity makes monsters. Well, it makes a bunch of soft monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nature of the beast. You know, like. But it's just.
I absolutely agree. I think we're getting it's happening in the Marine Corps too. I haven't confirmed it, but I've heard and I've seen in reports that now the Marine Corps is not allowing recruits in boot camp to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, aye sir. It's not sir and ma'am anymore. Now it's yes drill instructor. So they're not saying something based off sex anymore. They're saying it based off the fact that you're just a drill instructor. Because like, you know, in the Army, they call them drill sergeants. In the Marine Corps, we call them drill instructors. Mm-hmm. And so, again, I haven't like really done the deep dive research to see if it's confirmed, but I saw like, it was like 7-8 months ago, I started seeing all these articles and all these posts on social media talking about how the Marine Corps doesn't allow yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am anymore. Now it's yes drill instructor, aye drill instructor. They don't, you know, and it's the same thing we're saying. We're just getting soft, and it's that civilian mindset of like, I'm offended leaking into the military, and it sucks.
Right.
I don't like it either.
Yeah, I would love to ask somebody like up there, like why, like, do you think that's gonna help? Like, do you think it's gonna help recruitment? Because it's not.
It's all about this.
Yeah, like that's all it's about. And I'm like, you know, if you want to help recruitment out, or you want to help retention. You want to help retention in the military? Maybe you should tell the truth at the beginning. Instead of lying to people, say, oh, yeah, you just travel all the time. You know, you have all this time to go to school. Yes, you did make a point. We made point. Yes, go to school. Right. But if you think that you're going to only go to school for 4 years and get your degree, no.
Right.
And I think that we should tell the truth. If you want to help retention, tell the truth about how it is day to day. Don't give this like rosy picture, you know, about it. I think you combine it with the fact that we're getting soft. A lot of people just don't, and then you're not really telling them the truth about the day-to-day activities of the military. I think that's why we have an issue of getting people to join and stay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I did a little research probably about 5 or 6 months ago, just out of curiosity, because when I went in the Marine Corps back in 2003, it was about 1% of all Americans that joined the military. And I did research earlier or late last year in late 2022, and it's less than 0.5% now.
That's crazy.
Joined. So it's less than 0.5% of Americans that are going into any branch of the military now. And I was curious as to why. And I feel like this is a part of it. I feel like the softening and I'm offended and call me the right gender and all that, the softer the civilian community gets, in the view of the civilian community, the harder the military looks, right? Guns are scary. I don't want to carry a gun around. I don't want to get yelled at by a drill sergeant or a drill instructor or whatever the Air Force, you know, their branches call them. That stuff is too scary for me, because as society gets softer, society will start to view the military as something that's even harder and harder and harder. And then less people will join just because of the cultural difference of like the civilian community being soft. And then they think the Marine Corps, the Army, whatever branch is too hard. It's too rigid. Oh, they don't call me the right gender. You misgendered me. And I think going back to what we were saying earlier, and when I did this thing, I think everything goes back to money in the whole planet. You know, if you really think about it, money is the root of all evil, right? Money is the reason why we do a lot of what we do. It's why we wake up in the morning, go to a job. We got to pay bills. And so I think maybe what might have happened is the government, the DOD, started to recognize the fact that civilian communities are getting softer and softer, and they want all the misgender stuff to go away and call me the right thing, and I identify as they and all that. And they were like, recruitment numbers are going down. This is what's happening in the civilian community. These are the people that we need to join the military. So let's adapt to their little ways to make them happy so that they will join the military and keep our recruitment numbers where they need to be. And so I think maybe that's big picture. What the higher ups might have been thinking is, we need to adapt to the civilian world so that the military will appeal to civilians and will retain the numbers we need to retain, you know?
But what's the point of having numbers just for numbers' sake? I mean, you know what I mean? I get what you're saying. It makes sense. But if I have a bunch of people who would probably run away, if they got shot at, then what's the point of having the numbers? Like
that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like it looks
exactly.
good. Yes, we have 1 million people, but they're all gonna run away when it comes down to war. Like you know, like
point. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I mean, like I said, I'm not expecting anybody one of you guys to give me that answer because obviously none of us are up there. But I would love to ask somebody up there. Like there has to be a different way we can attract people, whether we provide more money or something. You know what I mean? And keep the military how it is.
Yeah.
I think adapting to society, yes, there's certain things less. The culture of the military when it came to not believing people when they were sexually assaulted, yes, I'm glad that we're changing that. And I'm glad we're going towards more, I would say, more of a civilian mindset on that. But with this whole you're misgendering me and we're having drag shows on posts. Like I don't know. I just think it's insane, and we're setting ourselves up for failure, and we better hope that we never get into a World War II style war with anybody anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just checked this. Yeah, it's less than 1% now. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Yeah. But like you said, but see, like I said, I feel like I'm contradicting myself. But then, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do if people are not joining, and if it's for the reasons that you're talking about? What do you do? It's not an easy decision.
It's not. Yeah. No,
it's not. I'm not saying this is easy, but I just feel like what we're doing is not. It's not helping. I know there's a lot of guys who were in the military who served, when you served and they stayed in.
Right.
And their time was up because in the Army, after like 10 years, you have to go in deaf. And I remember hearing guys say, like, I'm done. Yeah. I remember there's one of my neighbors, he was in, I don't know why he did this. I think 15, 16 years. He's right there. He said, I'm done. He said he had a chance to get out through like just saying he was crazy. I mean, he had PTSD, he had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
But like he was like, I could keep going, but I'm not. The Army's getting too soft. I gotta sit here and appease people who are under me. I have to do all this like babying. I don't want to do it no more. So it's like we're losing. Yeah, we may be getting those people that we need, those younger bodies, those younger souls, but like we're getting rid of the people with the experience on the other end. There's a lot of people are like, nah, it's too soft. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I also saw something that said a lot of the vets like myself, a lot of the combat vets who've been overseas already are getting out because of the same reasons. And now the military is full of people who have no experience. It's the brand new people who just got in the military, just came in, who've never deployed before. And that's all that's left because the combat vets like myself we're done, we're out. That was one of the reasons why I left the Marine Corps because of the culture. I was tired of it. So I bounced,
Right.
So I mean, I think it's a laundry list of reasons. I don't think it's one big reason. I think it's probably over 100 different things that are wrong with the military, individual small problems, big problems. And it's just a matter of the military being willing to make the changes that it needs to make in order to correct these issues. And I don't think they're willing to, because again, it comes down to this. They care less about the culture and less about the people and more about the money. And once they redirect their focus and from the money to actually making something that's quality, maybe that's when we'll start to see changes. But until then, probably not.
Yeah.
I actually had a question for you as well, Elliott.
What's up?
So since you got a 2007, right?
Yeah.
From active duty, how much would you say that the mental health thing has changed in the military? Like what have you noticed a difference? Have you heard about a difference? Because I know back then it was way different times compared to now. So what would you say has changed or that you've heard has changed since then?
Back when I got out, they didn't really do much of anything. For example, when we came home from Iraq, the only thing that we did was they sat a bunch of us in a room, like all of my battalion, different groups of Marines that were getting off the plane. They would sit us in a room and they would basically ask us like check in the box type of questions. How do you feel today? Do you feel depressed? Do you still feel sad? Do you feel like killing yourself? Yes or no? Do you feel like killing other people? Yes or no? It was just literally like a checklist. Yeah. You get through that checklist and you're done. If you don't say anything that's out of the box and you seem okay, then you just leave the room and you keep going. And then if you do feel any kind of certain ways, it's up to you to say something. But as you know, most of us don't. We try to suck it up or look tough. We don't say shit. and that was it. There was pretty much no real filtering, I guess you can say, of like as you come home from combat or as you get out of the military, we're going to sit you down with a therapist multiple times to make sure that you're okay, to see how you're feeling, you know, all that kind of stuff, to like really care about your mental health on your way out. It was more of like, oh, you're getting out. Okay, cool. Check these 6 boxes. Have a nice life. Bye. You know what I mean? And so I don't really know if it's changed a lot as of today. I haven't talked to, you can probably speak to this more than anybody because you said you just got out a year ago. I don't know if it's completely changed. But that's how it was when I was in. When I got out, it was literally just a couple of pieces of paper. I think I sat down with a therapist one time just to do a quick checkup, and then I was gone, and that was it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So back then, if you did want to get help, was the help available at the time or no?
Yeah, it was. We had therapists that you just had to speak up and tell your leadership, hey, I'm feeling a certain type of way. And they would connect you with the therapists that were on base for your unit. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was there.
Yeah,
wasn't great, but it was there.
Right. So, real quick. So, would you recommend to somebody to go off post for help if they had that opportunity? Because that's what I did. Yeah. They gave me a choice. Like, do you want to see somebody on post, or do you want to go to somebody who's like off post? And I said, yeah, off post, please.
So it depends, because it depends on the issues you're dealing with. Because specifically, for example, if you're dealing with combat-related PTSD, you're going to want to talk to a therapist who's an expert in combat PTSD, CPTSD, combat PTSD. That's very different than childhood trauma, things like that civilians might deal with more than us. So it really depends on the issue. If the issue that you want to get help with isn't related to the military, then absolutely, hell yeah, go off base and talk to somebody else. But if it's specifically related to combat or something that you experience, like MST, something that only somebody who's dealt with military stuff before might be able to understand, then I might suggest to that person staying on base, because maybe that therapist on base is more familiar with the topic that you're bringing to them. If you go to a civilian therapist off base who's never dealt with veterans or never dealt with military related trauma, and you try to bring that information to them, they might not know exactly, because it's similar, but it's a little bit different.
Right.
So you want to, overall, your goal should be to find a therapist who's an expert in the issues that you're experiencing, so that they can help you with those specific problems. And so whoever that is, whether it's on base or off base, just find that therapist and work with that therapist. It doesn't matter who they are. As long as you can find a therapist that can help you with whatever you're dealing with specifically, then you're good.
Right. Okay. Yeah, my bad, Ryan. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good, man. Now, see, I think that would be hard because
fight,
kind of like you said back.
Right.
They would have you go through a checklist pretty much. Be like, hey, are you okay? Are you feeling this? I mean, they're still pretty much doing that now, from my experience when I was going to seek therapy. Except now it's on a computer. It's on a software. They put all their check marks into the software now, and then at the end of the questionnaire, it's like, okay, patient might have this, and this wrong. And then they got a book they refer to. It's like 1,000 pages long or whatever, some big old medical book.
It's a psychological book. Yeah, I know about it.
And they were telling me, they're like, okay, so we see this wrong with you, so we got to refer to page 560, right?
God. Yeah.
And it says right here that this could be possibly a childhood thing, or it could be this, and that. And I was just like, so are you actually trained, or are we going
right? Are you just reading this page?
Right.
Yeah, they really didn't do a whole lot to like help me. And from the experience that I was talking to other people, combat vets and people who weren't in combat, it was the same exact thing. Like, a dude could go in there and be like, hey, I've been having this combat trauma for like 10 plus years, and I've been really violent lately. And they would just pretty much tell him like, oh, so yeah, I got to refer to this manual for you, give you a couple of flyers, but we're going to send you to this counselor over here, and maybe they can help you in a couple of group sessions. And it's just like, so that's the ultimate answer now. It's just a couple of group sessions to go through that. And then they might be okay. They might not be okay. Because I've seen some guys in these group sessions, man, and they are not, some of the guys are not doing good at all.
Yeah.
Like, they're bad.
They need individual one-on-one therapy for sure, and medication.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I seen my boy, this is way before I got in. My boy, he joined in 2007.
Right.
And that's when Iraq and Afghanistan was hot. And he came back. I think he got out in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't see him until 2013. And he was a completely different person. Like, you can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I remember we went to this, me and my other boy took him to this club.
Right.
And we're just sitting and like he's just sitting there. Like you hear all these people, like we're sitting at the bar with him. We're talking,
right.
But it was just like as if he was there, and it was just like he had, like, you know how horses wear blinders? That's it was just whatever was in front of him. He wasn't even looking at us, dude. And he was saying, like, yeah, I got to go to the VA and like on Monday because I got to get my weekly therapy. I think he said he saw a therapist like 2 times a week or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just such a different person. I think we take it seriously in the military, but I still don't think we take it seriously enough for the people who get out.
Oh no. Yeah, I had the same experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was dating somebody when I got out of the Marine Corps, and she took me to a club. Same problem. And I was just sitting there staring at the lights like a zombie. And she literally had to come up and do this whole thing, like, "Hey, are you good?"
Oh,
and I just was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm good." And then like after a while, like I couldn't go to nightclubs because the loud boom, boom, boom would bother me.
Right.
And so yeah, it was same thing, bro. Same thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I know when Trump was president, he did some things for vets to make it easier for them to go outside the VA system, because I think there was a lot of reforms that have gone on in the VA, but it's still not, where it should be. So he gave those people the option to go to a private practice, but the military, or excuse me, the government still pay for it. Right. So there's people out there, man, like, hey, don't think that you're stuck in a VA system. Like, you can, and I'm not bashing anybody who works for the VA, but you can go outside of the VA system if you need help.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I see a therapist and the VA pays for it, and she's not a VA therapist. What I forget, it's called community care. That's what it is.
Care.
Where you can basically the VA will pay for a therapist that is near your house, because that's actually the main. I think that's the main reason why they started it, because in certain parts of the country that are more rural, the nearest VA to you might be 4 hours away.
Right.
Nowhere. But there's a therapist that might be 20 minutes away, And so I think the VA started getting a lot of complaints about that. And so they found a way to be like, okay, cool. You can go to that therapist that's 20 minutes away that doesn't work for the VA, and the VA will pay for that therapy. And so they call it community care. So that's what I'm using now. There's a therapist that's near my apartment that I go to. That way I don't have to drive 45 minutes to the VA to go see a therapist.
Right.
So yeah.
There you go. So I got one more question for you, man. This will be my last question for the podcast. But so what do you do now? Like, what have you been up to lately, like past couple of years, man?
I do entertainment, bro. So long story short, got out of the Marine Corps. And then while this was all happening while I was doing the Army stuff in the background, but got out of the Marine Corps, started dealing with PTSD, kind of got diagnosed a hard way. I ended up in a 5150 ward. Got into a violent altercation with my brother. I was living with my family at the time when I got out.
Yeah.
Ended up in a 5150 ward. Got out of that 5150 ward. My family was like, nope, you can't come home. We're scared of you. Lived in my car for a short amount of time. Called the VA and said, hey, this is my situation. What do I do? They said, hey, there's transitional housing for homeless veterans that we can try to get you into. Got into that. Was there for just under 2 years in transitional housing. Started seeing a therapist, started going to college, dropped out of college, went back to college, then dropped out again because PTSD, depression, anxiety, all of that stuff was just too much for me. And then in 2015, I believe it was, 13, I finally was like, I'm quitting. I dropped out and I was like, I got to get the help I need. Started seeing the right therapist, which is why I mentioned earlier, you got to find the right therapist for you. Started seeing the right therapist, which I didn't even expect was a blessing. She gave me some really good advice, and I had been doing music my entire life, right? So I sang in choir in high school. I was in drumline in high school. Music has always been a part of who I am since I was a little kid. Told her all this stuff because she was getting to know my childhood, all that kind of stuff. And she was like, you can use your talents in music to kind of like combat your PTSD naturally without having to take meds. Because I had some bad experiences with medication. I almost choked to death on a med after reacting to it.
Damn.
So I was scared to take medicine. And so I told her that, and she was like, well, there's a natural way you can combat that. And so I took her advice and I started using it, and I bought recording studio equipment. I started finding ways to get myself booked to perform live in concert, doing open mic nights, things like that. Long story short, now fast forward to 2021, I released my debut album. I released a music video that went viral on YouTube. I've been in the media a bunch of times. My story of going from being this homeless combat vet to now the successful recording artist has been told on multiple different platforms. I've been on daytime talk shows, multiple magazines. I'm actually going to be in U.S. Veterans Magazine this month. It comes out May 15th.
Nice.
And I'm on the cover of a magazine. I've been, all over the media, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so now that's what I'm doing full time. So I do music full time. I'm also an actor. I'm on Vet TV. I've been on a bunch of shows on Vet TV. And then on the side, a little thing I do is I also do photography. But my primary focus is the music. So I get booked to perform the national anthem a lot. So I've done the national anthem for like Lakers games, Dodgers games. I live out here in the LA area. And so I do a lot of the national anthems for a lot of the local sports teams out here. The Kings, the Lakers, the Dodgers, like I mentioned, the Rams. And so I do that a lot. I do a lot of national anthems at different sporting events or different veterans events that are coming up. Like for Veterans Day, I'm booked for Memorial Day coming up at the end of the month, things like that. And then I also do speaking engagements, telling my story. So I'll get invited by different veteran nonprofits or different companies for different reasons. Like, for example, in 11 days, I think it is, I got invited out to LA to tell my story to a group of nonprofit leaders about that. These are nonprofits that service the veteran community in Southern California. And it's because June is mental health awareness, or May, I think it's May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. And so this is an event to kind of raise awareness about mental health in the veteran community. And they wanted to get a bunch of people who were working for these nonprofits or that run these nonprofits in a room to kind of have veterans tell their stories and their experiences. And so I got invited to be one of those veterans to speak and tell my story. And then I'm also performing the national anthem at that event as well. I have a couple of other events coming up. So I do stuff like that throughout the year. I have my own website. Everything is on ElliottMcKenzie.com, Instagram. And then people can just Google me as well. Just Google Elliott McKenzie and everything will pop up. So that's pretty much what I'm focused on right now. My second album is in the middle of being recorded right now. I'm planning and hoping I can get it done by around Veterans Day this year, 2023. If not, then early 2024. And right now my goal is just to try to inspire as many people as I can, because through this entire experience and through this entire process, I've had a handful of people reach out to me and tell me that my story and my music has inspired them. I've even had veterans and civilians both tell me that a certain song of mine, or maybe my whole album, prevented them from committing suicide. I've had a handful of veterans specifically reach out to me and say, hey, I was gonna kill myself. Listen to this song that you put out, and it inspired me to stay alive and keep pushing. So much so that I have quotes, like actually that's a quote tatted on my arm from a fan of mine who said that. He said I was going to kill myself, but I decided not to. And then I have this other quote on this other arm, that font right there you see, same thing. These are two veterans who were going to off themselves and decided not to after listening to my music and hearing my story. And so right now I'm at a point where I just want more of that. I want to be able to inspire as many people as possible. I don't care about money. I don't care about fame. I don't care about validation. I just care about making a difference. So however I can do that, I want to do that. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's respect right there. Respect.
That's awesome. Thanks, you're living the dream, inspiring others. That's
trying.
Awesome.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
All right. But no, man, we really do appreciate you coming on and talking to us. The first interview.
Yeah, man. First interview.
All right, hey, Elliot, we really do appreciate it.